Hey everybody, welcome to Hopes on the Sticks. I'm Burt.
And I'm Matt.
Alright, so how's your week been going, Matt?
Fucking terrible. My goddamn AC is controlled by my absentee landlord, and my balls are melting.
Ah, that sucks.
How's yours?
Uh, better. Flew out to LA last Monday, got back Wednesday, so went over to the train terminal where my company does the IT logistics for the train terminal, for the vessels taking off containers and then
Right.
all the machinery moving shit around and then having trucks and the rail system take them out and in again. So that was pretty cool.
Did you take some pictures? I want to see something.
Just the one. I didn't take much pictures. I only was taken around once. So mostly we're at this building next to what's called the gate, which is where the trucks come in and out. And just one of the 3 days that I actually went out to the yard. Usually, don't go out there because you don't really want people walking out there because of all the semis and heavy machinery and not wanting people to die.
Really.
So, but hopefully next time I go there, I can go there when they're off shift. Maybe go up one of those cranes, which are fucking huge.
Yeah, like the container offloaders.
Yeah, from the vessel to the yard. Or actually, it goes from the vessel. So they pick it up from the vessel and move it over land onto the dock, and then drop it onto a truck that then carries it over to somewhere else in the yard for a what's called a top handler that picks it up and then puts it on top of the stack, and then wait for a truck to come, and then the top handler or what's called an RTG, which is like a small crane that just takes stuff from the container and puts it on the pile. And then then the truck comes in, then it puts it on top of the empty chassis, locks it in, and then it goes off. Inversely, can come from a truck or the rail system and then put it on the pile, and then eventually they take it from the pile and put it on an empty vessel that then goes out to China or whatever.
Yeah, hurry up. I'm waiting on my wish order already.
Yeah. It's actually, yeah.
Got some cheap sunglasses.
Yeah, it's pretty congested with the vessels right now.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, so our terminal can work on 3 different vessels at the same time. So
That's pretty awesome. I mean, how many containers is that? Just to give anybody some give me some scale. I know how big they are, but those are pretty big ass ships.
yeah, thousands of containers per ship.
3 at a time. Amazing.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to come up with some kind of excuse if you want to get up in that crane, man.
No.
They're not gonna They're not gonna let you up there.
Anyway, a lot of a lot of my coworkers went up there. You just got to go on when it's off shift or during lunch.
Ah, gotcha.
These are all union guys, so they don't work, any longer than they have to.
I hear that. I was about to say, did you clear up that little union scuffle that was out there? Was that affecting your yard?
No, I don't think so.
Well, that's too bad. Well, that's part of the logjam, is they're pressing their advantage.
they have a pretty big advantage already. They get paid like surgeons.
Yeah, the box has to come in to get that surgical equipment to the surgeons.
No, I'm just saying that the union guys get paid like surgeons.
I hear you. Yeah, sure.
A lot.
Why not?
I mean, I've seen seen them work. It's just a whole bunch of repetitive shit over and over again. One guy is just his whole job just to stand there and make sure that the containers lined up to the chassis, and like a little bit left, a little bit right. Okay, where's my $300,000?
I mean, if he doesn't line those up right, what ends up happening? It's this massive ripple effect of everyone's shit not showing up on time.
I'm just saying, for the amount of skill required for that job, to how much they're getting compensated. Like, if it doesn't, like, and it's not like it goes perfect like the first time. Like, I see it, like, go up and down like 3 or 4 times before they get it in right. It's not like they're fucking surgical in their jobs, where it's like always right pretty much every single time.
Well, he's talking to a crane operator.
He's not.
Right?
Yeah. By talking.
The crane operator's not moving it like millimeters at a time.
It's not like you have to be like super precise. Like you just, like they go on what they're basically look like almost cones. So like they'll slide in if it's close enough, and then you just turn them to lock them in. And that's it. Then they go. Say the job used to be a whole hell of a lot harder, which okay, yeah, you get these, you pay these guys a whole shit ton because they're fucking breaking their backs. But now with the new technology, they still get paid like really really well, even though their job is like significantly easier.
So you're saying fire all of them? Got it.
Yeah, one day, once it becomes all completely automated, some terminals are.
Wow. 100%? There's not a single person watching a single.
Think close to it,
like working the crane or lining it up.
That's what I was told. I mean, I guess yeah.
That's amazing.
I mean, I'm sure you have mechanics there, but and yeah, sure, mechanics. Pay them a shit ton of money. Those are very intricate machines.
Yeah,
some of those,
breaks.
especially the cranes. Yeah, actually, most of them. So besides those guys, which I don't even know if they're like union guys. That might be a different deal. Anyway. But yeah, main takeaway is, yeah, it's pretty fucking cool, and yeah, and and the company paid for a nice pair of work boots. Got some Red Wings, cost $150.
Oh,
yeah,
nice.
Yeah, it cost $150, and they just gave me like this voucher. It's like, okay, go to this store, pick out whatever work shoe you want. And give it to them, as long as it's under $200, you're good to go. If it's over, you just pay the difference. So,
score.
Yeah, $150 Red Wings, and it came with some work gloves too, which is pretty cool.
Nice. Conversely, my boots actually got stolen.
Oh, that sucks.
I know. I don't even know who the hell took them. I don't know how. Who the hell would steal an old shitty pair of boots? I don't get it. I had them sitting there in the back office, and I think that I left the door unlocked, and somebody just sort of opened up the door and snagged my boots. It's a really weird scenario.
Yeah.
Where my boots are sitting there, right? And this is the winter, and the door is unlocked. and it opens up into like a conference room.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I store my bike. It's just an unused conference room where we do training for the people who use our software, use our product. They sometimes come on site, come to us, and my boss will train 10, 20 people at a time. And so this is just a back conference room that's never used.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody opens up the door and just pokes their head in real quick and sees a pair of boots right there that clearly need new soles. And think, oh yeah, this is it. This is the treasure of El Dorado right here. This is what I was looking for.
Perfect crime.
This is perfect, yeah. No one's ever going to know this. Yoink. So that's pretty cool, man. Got yourself a new pair of boots.
Yep.
You get to go around LA?
A little bit. The guy I went with, my coworker, he was the one who rented the car, so I couldn't really drive around. But there was stuff around the hotel. There's a pier and some good restaurants and shit. So.
I know nothing of LA. I assume you were on the coast?
Yeah.
So West LA? Alright. You're not going East Los on us?
No. No, pretty much.
Did you ever see the movie American Me?
No, I haven't.
Oh man, if you want to see a movie about East Los Angeles' gangs of the 1980s, it's got Edward James Olmos in it.
Huh.
Every other line in the movie is "Oh, dale." It's a pretty good movie.
Mm.
And it takes place in East Los Angeles, as opposed to where you were, which...
Yep. Didn't get much more west than where I was.
Yeah, Los Angeles is huge.
Yeah.
I got a friend out there right now. Well, he's not in L.A., he's much further north. He says it's just like, he basically lives in a suburb in North Central.
Okay.
Where is that? Santa Maria. So that's like 4 hours north. So he's in that middle part of California that nobody ever talks about.
Alright.
So like San Luis Obispo and stuff like that. And he always warns me that he's going out there. That's where he grew up, and so his parents are out there, so he goes out there to check on them, see how they're doing, whatnot.
Right.
And a second he is going there, I know that I'm going to get the call. And it's the call of, I'm bored. This guy is 13 years old when the second he goes back out there. I'm like, I don't care. Kurt, if you're listening to this, go to the beach. There's stuff out there.
Adventure awaits.
Yeah, anything awaits. Just, I don't care. I don't know. I'm not. Listen to the podcast. How about that?
That's it.
Yeah, right? Get the street cred going. And of course, he retorts with, I'm not that bored.
Not that bored. Listen to your shitty ass podcast.
Yeah, I know, right? Oof. Super burn. Got me. Let's see your art, guy. He doesn't have anything to say to that. Just goes and cries in his beer.
Mm-hmm.
All right, this is a great episode. Us just shitting all over Kurt.
Yeah. So, other big news. We haven't mentioned this yet. My wife Sharon is pregnant, and we're expecting a baby in December.
Woo! Nice.
Yeah.
I was wondering whether or not you were gonna broadcast that on the podcast. Congratulations.
Thank you. So, yeah, it's now like whenever she's like goes like, oh no, I was like, what? I was like, freaking out at every little thing that she says. That like any kind of noise that she makes that does not sound positive.
Try not to let that go to her head.
Nah, that.
It's like the kid's 38 years old. All right, I'm not falling for it again.
No, I think once the kid starts walking, I'll won't worry so much. It's like, he's fine.
Oh yeah.
Or / we have the second one. It's like, I mean, whatever. You know, we got a spare. It's fine. That's why you have multiple kids.
Yeah, heard that.
That's what.
Yeah, I'm laughing like my family isn't huge. 7 kids is way too many kids. Let's just put it that way.
This day and age, it's kind of a lie.
Don't have that many.
Like, back 200 years ago when like half of you were going to survive. Yeah, sure. But
oh man,
y'all survived.
I don't know if... yeah, I know, right? Hey, all right, cool. It's pretty rough being number 6 of 7. You're like, was I supposed to be here? was this planned? That's the real joke of it. None of us were.
Yeah.
Zero planned. So do you know yet? Are you going to do a giant gender reveal party and burn down half the country?
I mean, we live in Arizona, so that'd be hard to do. It's like we'd burn like one tree and then light all the rocks surrounding the tree.
Well, you're just going to have to step your game up, Everybody's getting more and more destructive, letting everyone know the presumed gender of their child. So
I'll see if I can get the Jewish space laser to just burn it into the ground.
That's what I'm getting at. That's what I'm getting at, all right? You need to carve out the name out of the Rockies or something.
It's a boy.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, and then when he decides that he's a she, just like cross it out.
Yeah. Or just put just put like a caret, arrow, was a boy.
Right. There you go. So you don't know yet?
No.
Still too early to tell.
You don't know until like halfway through the pregnancy.
Okay, got it.
So I think another 8 weeks, I'd say. So about another 2 months.
All right. Nice. I just saw a fun thing on Imager or however the hell you say it, of apparently if you get an MRI of your of the kid, it's like not advised, just because of how terrifying the picture is.
Mm-hmm.
Because like the baby doesn't have like eyelids or something like that, so it's just like this amorphous alien shape with non-oval eyeballs.
Yeah.
Look it up. It's fantastic.
That's all right. So Sharon has an app that shows a CGI image of what it's approximately supposed to look at this point in time.
Interesting. What's that called?
I don't know. It's some pregnancy app. It tells you also like it gives you like all the this is when you could tell the gender. This is like they have like a whole thing like this is when your first sonogram it's supposed to be second sonogram, whatever. This is when your kid has a heartbeat. This is when the brain starts developing. It gives you like all the info, and says like this is the approximate size of a 8-week-old fetus.
All right.
It gives you like in 3 different things, like by vegetable or by candy or by whatever, like how big it is. It's like It is as big as a date or a gumball.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
It's as big as a soda gummy.
Are inches and millimeters not in popular use anymore? Do people not... Okay, all right, whatever. That's another popular thing on Imgur. Apparently everybody uses bananas for reference. Like how big is that in bananas? There's a lot of weird in jokes on that website. That's one of them. So the baby is the size of a quarter banana. Does that sound right?
Sure. Somewhere around that, I guess.
Very exciting stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, be even more exciting in mid-December. It's just like, I don't know, it's just, I mean, it was cool, like, you know, when you find out, and then, you know, then you tell everybody, and then it's pretty much just a waiting game, at least for me. It's a puking game for Sharon.
Right.
Like, trying to figure out when she should eat, you know, so she minimizes her risk of throwing up.
Yeah, fantastic stuff.
Yeah, but hopefully that goes away pretty soon. We're starting around the corner on the first trimester.
I have no idea. With how gross my sisters are, they never talked about it.
So what it's thought of what causes morning sickness is this hormone, I think it's a hormone, that gets produced by the ovaries to not abort the baby. You know, they keep it in. So it's creating that hormone that tells your body to, you know, not throw it all out. Now, eventually, when the placenta forms around the fetus, then that produces a different hormone that does the same thing, and then the ovaries stop producing their hormone, and that's when women usually stop getting morning sickness, is when that transition happens, which is around the second trimester.
All right. I'll get them on the phone. If she needs any help or any advice or...
No, she's got her mom and my mom.
Anything like that. I mean, yeah, for real.
Listen, I don't think they changed it in the past few decades.
Yeah, 15th opinion never hurt.
Yeah. So yeah, that's about it for now.
Nice. Sorry, I was trying to look up topics, and mostly all I was stuck on was my home buying stuff. I've been consumed with that.
So I've still been...
I don't know how thrilling that would be to talk about.
Well, I've still been playing Returnal. I'm kind of hitting a brick wall where, like, I'm trying to get to, like, the third boss, which is at the third level. But, like, you know, you restart, like, stat-wise every time you die. So you kind of have to, like, grind to have any kind of chance against that boss. So you have to kind of go through the other levels. And so I've been kind of just, like, dying a lot, like, especially usually a good amount of the time I get through the first level now, so I'm getting better. But now I'm just, like, dying, like, either at the beginning of the third level or around the end of the second level. So, but yeah, every once in a while something new happens, like this one of my corpses I found, like, started, like, attacking me and, like, growing tentacles and shit. So that was interesting.
Damn. I definitely started playing Ghost of Tsushima a lot more.
Oh, cool. Where you at now? You finally got that armor?
I finally found what's-her-face, Lady Asako, or Asako. Yeah, finally got myself a nice piece of armor, got a helmet and whatnot, and now I can kill people a lot more effectively. Finally was able to up it from easy to medium.
Nice.
Yeah, right? Learning some moves, figuring out the buttons. This game is deep. It's really all about, like, the kill combos, trying to figure out the... You know, you can't just mash the buttons and just kill people a certain way.
Yeah, you have to, like...
This is all...
You have to be tactical about it, where
You
it's like, oh, here's this guy, like, here's a spearman, let me take him out first. So you switch stances to the spearman stance, spearman killing stance.
Right.
Take him out, then,
Right.
yeah, you're basically, like, switching stances, like, all the time.
Yeah. You gotta switch the stance, then you gotta hit the buttons the right way, based on how their movements are going. I like it. I like it a lot.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, combos.
You gotta be very reactive to how it is. You can't just hit the same buttons over and over and over again, like how every other game has ever been. So that's different.
Yeah. And so, like, depending on where you are, like, you're doing a whole bunch of, like, dodge rolling. So if you're in, like, in a muddy spot, like, you turn, like, super muddy, like, really quick.
I haven't found the mud level yet. Where is the mud at? What, do you gotta get to the beach for that?
No, you'll find. There's just places that are muddy.
Okay. Kind of sounds like I'm gonna be hitting that up later today. Probably immediately after this podcast, or while we're talking, maybe.
Alright. Yeah, it's...
Go straight.
It's pretty good. So, you got the bow and arrow, too, right?
Oh, hell yeah. That was the first thing I found, because I couldn't find the lady with the armor, so I had to find a way of killing somebody.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. It's great. I usually just kill everybody with that. And then you can, like, throw bombs at people. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
They just sort of threw that... They kind of threw that little thing in there. Like, oh, yeah, by the way, you can also throw grenades at people. The equivalent of a grenade.
Yeah.
In 14th century Japan, or... Wait, where are we? Is this 15th century? It's Mongols, so this has got to be, what, like 15th century or so?
I don't know. Sure.
Well, if the Mongols are a thing,
So this is...
I'll go with
So this is after Genghis Khan. Like a generation after Genghis Khan. I think his...
Right, Kublai.
Yeah, Kublai is the emperor now. During this time.
Mm-hmm. Great game, highly advise.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and it keeps staying good. Yeah, the story's good. Especially for such a like an open world sandbox kind of game. The narrative's pretty tight.
Absolutely. Yeah, man, I love getting... If I eat like a 10 milligram gummy and just get loaded and I'm just like riding my horse through the countryside, it's just gorgeous.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's quite amazing. Next thing I know, like 2 hours has gone by. I'm like, oh shit. Did I even do anything? Turns out I was just dreaming. I had passed out 10 minutes into that ride. I should have discovered more. Like, no, I just passed out, left the game running, and just, yeah.
Just woke up, there's some fox whining at you. Asshole, it's been like 2 hours, you gotta follow me?
Right. You're supposed to follow me. The fox petting is, yeah, I just ride around trying to find that. It's good stuff.
Yeah.
Gotta find enough foxes to get enough shrines to get the charm slot.
Put the charm in so you're better at shooting people in the face with an arrow.
Yes. Because that's how you get better at things.
Yep. So...
It's a little tedious.
Yeah, a little bit. And then there's those. Have you found those bamboo shoot mini games where you like slice through them with your katana?
Yeah, I found one of them.
Yeah.
Found the first one so far. Because I don't do the game properly. I feel like I would have found that a hell of a lot faster if I had just gone to the place. I think Hiyoshi Springs is like the first major town that you can go to. So, yeah, I would have found it about 15 minutes in. But no, somebody had to spend 15 hours clearing fog.
It's another way to find them. But,
yeah, the hot springs thing is pretty funny. The onsen thing.
Mm-hmm.
You just get some gratuitous man-ass every single time you find one. I figured it was a good idea to just go ahead and find those first to maximize how much maximum health I have.
Right.
Because you got 18 of those things. Okay, I'll just find every one of those and then kick ass throughout the rest of the game. So, that has been the majority of the game so far, is just my character's man-ass.
And thinking about things.
Right, and thinking about things.
What would you like to think about?
I know, right? What is the purpose? I don't know. I don't know, whatever. You know. Sure, throw it in there.
Well, I'm naked in a hot spring. Might as well start thinking about my uncle.
Right, yeah. I'm like, what? What are these topics? It's like, you are here. Would you like to think about Mother? Like, alright, I guess.
Yeah. So how many haikus have you written?
I think I've gotten to 2. There was the terrible one I think I was telling you about.
Right.
Just didn't turn out very good at all. The second time, I think I did better. I think I did a better job of it. You're catching me flat-footed. I didn't write down. I didn't memorize what I wrote. What they provided.
Right.
The fill in your blank, choose your own haiku thing. On occasion, you hear music notes when you select a verse. I feel like I'm not selecting them right. Because I select 2 out of 3, and I'm like, oh, okay, that note sounded good. But then you select the third one, and then it just sounds discordant. And I'm like, oh, okay. It's like, I guess I didn't match these up properly. And then I read it back to myself, and I'm like, this haiku sucks. So I gotta work on my skills, I guess.
Yes, I mean, kind of just choosing one of 3 in all 3 verses.
Right, but I mean, they could...
Yeah, they could flow into each other better,
sense. Yeah. Right, yeah, they should make a little bit of sense, so I mean, this last one I tried going with the, you look up and there's the sky, so there's something to do with the sky.
Mm-hmm.
And you have a chance to look up again. So I'm like, okay, fine, I'll just keep looking up. Third time, nope. Strong like a fortress or some dumb shit. Or we're growing strong. I'm like, what the fuck? That's the best I got? Sucks. I better come up with some better poetry throughout this game.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you. It's going to be severely disappointing if the poetry doesn't improve. What other games you playing?
That's the main one. Playing that. Playing Hearthstone. I was playing a bit of Overlord again, which is like Pikmin except goofier. Well, I don't know if goofier is the right word. Instead of like some asshole who just lands out from another planet and just takes all the resources from the planet while enslaving the local inhabitants. You're like this evil overlord who enslaves these things called minions, but they're pretty cool with it. and you're trying to revenge yourself on these 7 heroes that fucked up your predecessor's shit.
Oh, I remember that game.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was from 07, 08?
Yeah, it was a while back.
Yeah, I couldn't stand the voices. The voices in the game were jarring.
Oh, yeah. Sharon, that was her favorite part of the game, is the voices. Whenever she says colors now, she says it like a minion. It's green, blue.
That's fantastic. Yeah, nah, I hated that game. Couldn't stand it. I'm pretty sure I usually left the room whenever Danny started playing it. I'm like, okay, have fun.
And I tried out the new Resident Evil game, 8, or Village.
Is that the one everyone's losing their mind over with the
With the big lady?
12-foot tall? Yeah, starts with a D.
Yeah.
Dimitrescu?
Yeah, I haven't met her yet. Yeah. So I started it. I don't know. Gameplay seems kind of annoying. You're kind of just lumbering around in first person, and I don't know. First of all, it just seems like your bullets are next to worthless. You have to go through an entire fucking clip to wipe out this half werewolf thing. And I don't know, I'll get back into it, but just also I think I should be playing at night, because the game is dark, so and it's right back, and my TV is right next to the sliding door, the glass sliding door thing, so there's a good amount of glare when it's during the day a lot of the time. So it's even harder to see. So
yeah, right. Yeah, and also it's a scary game, so you should be scaring it up.
yeah, it's a little scary. Like Resident Evil kind of stopped trying to be scary for a while. I think maybe it's going back, but yeah. So playing that as well.
I saw a fun community mod where that lady's hat gets bigger and bigger and bigger every single scene, because she's got this huge, big floppy hat,
right?
And it gets as ridiculous as you think it does.
Mm-hmm.
Spanning the size of the scene itself and exploding beyond, but gradually.
Right.
There's no way it's gonna get big. It's bigger.
Yeah, not too much football news. Yeah. Could always just talk about Israel.
Oh, hell yeah. Who doesn't want to talk about that?
Everyone who has an audience does not want to talk about that. Not really.
Ah, yeah, right.
But since we don't...
So here's my opinion. You're wrong!
Yeah. So, I was thinking about taking it to... talking about it in a slightly different way than most people, about who's the good guys and who are the bad guys, who's right and who's wrong. I'll say it doesn't matter. When is it, from a political standpoint of and trying to move forward, when has that ever mattered? You can and everyone does, they come up with these anecdotal things of these guys are the assholes, and these anecdotal things of why we're the good guys, and then just push with that. And if and it depends on when you're starting, at what point in history, oh, these guys did that, and then these guys did that, and then these guys did that.
Right.
So instead of kind of going into that, which again, I submit it does not matter. Like, not if you actually care about any of the people involved, the Israelis, the Palestinians, what's going on with them, it doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't, like, who has the most good guy points? It doesn't matter. So I want to go over a few other things. Like, one thing that everyone can get behind and feel comfortable with is blame the British. So we're going all the way back.
Yes.
Pretty much any major conflict of people, you can pretty much go back to the British and them fucking it up, then leaving. It's like, oh, look at these guys. Look at how fucked up they are.
It's not just them either.
Yeah.
It's the Dutch, the Portuguese, the French. Yeah, any colonial power.
Yeah.
If you saw Exterminate All the Brutes on HBO, it just came out. It's like a 4-part miniseries. Man, that'll... I mean, that's even some stuff that I didn't even really know about or really even think about. I mean, you know about colonialism in Africa, but when you think about the size of Africa,
yeah,
it's like theft, rape, and murder on just this gargantuan scale that just it boggles the mind. The Democratic Republic of Congo is twice the size of California and Texas combined. And that's a chunk of Africa. Africa's fucking huge. Yeah. Not to fucking belabor, not to get distracted here, but yeah. And to your point, what the British they promised Israel, or at least they promised Palestine to like 3 different people, like 3 different major groups in like a span of 3 years or something like that.
Yeah. Well, it was more than 3 years so they promised, a country in Palestine to the Jews. I think a little bit after World War I, or something like that. So that there'll be a Jewish homeland. After so taking that back a little bit further, almost the entire Middle East was ruled by the Ottoman Empire, which collapsed at the end of World War I, and is now Turkey. And then you had all these different regions, and one of them was Palestine. And the UK had a mandate for most of them. I think France was in there a little bit too. But Palestine was run by the United Kingdom. All right. So then, they promised, some land to the Jews. And then you'd also make a country for the Arabs that were living there. But then you also had what was going on in Arabia. So you had 2 major factions, the Saudis and the Hashemites, and you could figure out who ended up ruling Arabia by the current name, Saudi Arabia.
Ain't called Hashemite Arabia.
Yeah, no, it's not. So the Hashemites, they promised them their own kingdom, or more land to rule over, like after the Ottoman Empire fell, and so they basically decided to give Arabia to the Saudis, and then this Hashemite king, both of his sons. One got Iraq, and one got Jordan. What would become Jordan. And Jordan, the entirety of it was within the borders of Palestine, and is about 3 times larger as Israel, the West Bank, and Gaza, all put together. So when Israel was being formed, again, it was still run by the British. They had their military there, and then you had Jews buying up land and kind of developing it, like especially around the Tel Aviv area. Tel Aviv is a relatively new city. It's not like biblical or anything. They just kind of built that up from the ground up post World War II, I guess. And then, but also what would happen, so you had a whole bunch of Jews coming in, either from, Europe, from, the Holocaust survivors. You had a whole bunch of Russian Jews coming in. You had some American Jews coming in. And then you also had a lot of Arabs coming in because there were, unless you were part of the government, in whatever country you were in, there were like no jobs. But these Jewish guys were building up infrastructure to create Israel. So there's a whole bunch of labor jobs in Israel. So a whole bunch of Arabs came from, all over the Middle East into what is currently Palestine to get a job. And so that's why there's so many Arabs in, the West Bank and Gaza. It's not just Palestinians, the people who were always there. There's also a lot of people who came in, to, get a job from the Jews that were building up the infrastructure there. And they just, didn't leave.
Mm-hmm.
So that was happening, and then you had the UN vote. Basically, the vote was to accept the Jewish state of Israel into the United Nations. And you also had a, kind of plan, like the proposed borders for Israel and Palestine, or whatever they wanted to call it, the Arab country adjacent to Israel. And that will probably go down as the worst decision by the Palestinians of all time, because the Jews, accepted it, the Palestinians didn't. And if they did accept it, Israel would be significantly smaller than what it is right now. If everyone just went well enough alone, like Israel would be like really, really small. But now it's just kind of small. So anyway, so they rejected it, and so then again, shortly after the UN vote came in, there was a big war between the Jewish settlers and all the surrounding Arab nations. A lot of them were basically brand new. Some of them I don't think were even countries yet, technically, from a UN perspective. And so when the war ended, whatever the lines were at that point in time, those were the borders. So the green line that people talk about, like with the West Bank and what should be the basis of the negotiations between the Israelis and Palestinians for creating a Palestinian state, there's no cultural or any kind of meaningfulness to the green line. Besides, that's just where the fighting stopped between the Israelis and the Jordanians. So to the west of the green line was Israel, and then east of the green line was Jordan-controlled territory, which is the West Bank, which included Jerusalem, or at least East Jerusalem. And then you had the 6-Day War, which started with you have all the Arab states that I don't remember what the pretext was for why they were doing this. They were starting to build up their forces on the border of Israel, so it looked like they were going to attack. So instead of waiting for them to attack, Israel just, did a preemptive strike and just kicked the shit out of them. So they took over the entire West Bank, a large portion of the Sinai, and the Golan Heights. So the Golan Heights was from Syria, which they kept, then the West Bank from Jordan, then the Sinai from Egypt. So Syria and Israel never created any kind of peace agreement because Israel didn't want to let go of the Golan Heights, and that was a kind of a requirement from Syria. But Israel deemed it too much of a strategic advantage to give it up. So there's that. They did give up the Sinai to Egypt and signed a peace agreement with them. And Jordan didn't want the West Bank back. I don't.
We're good.
I don't think. Yeah, I think because I think the people of the West Bank didn't want to be ruled over by, these guys who were originally from Arabia. It's like, I don't fucking. Why the fuck should I take orders from these assholes? And then Jordan's like, you know what? Don't come to Jordan or anything. Just stay where you are and peace out, y'all. So they didn't.
Yeah,
so they didn't.
exactly.
They didn't want the land back, and so Israel's kind of like, oh, okay. Well, we don't want these to. So they didn't just. So instead of just saying, okay, this is now part of Israel, because if you did that, then all the shit ton of Palestinians out there would you kind of had to make them Israeli citizens, and if you did that, then you would have a small majority of Arabs, so you wouldn't even have a Jewish state of Israel anymore. Which you can, however you feel about that, whatever. Israel's just not going to do that. So, and that's also kind of for anyone who thinks that there's a one-state solution out there, you're completely and 100% wrong. It will never happen ever because Israel will never willingly go to a Jewish minority. It's just they're not going to do that. So they would rather just give East Jerusalem and the entire West Bank to the Palestinians than have a one-state solution and have it just all turn into one country. It's just not going to happen. Hey everybody, this is Burt, currently editing this episode. I wanted to give a little bit more context here of why it's so important to maintain a Jewish majority in Israel for the Jews. Israel was created because of the Holocaust, essentially, and because all the countries that Nazi Germany invaded and took over almost entirely sold out its Jewish population, with the one exception of Denmark. Everyone else, Austria, Poland, France, they, after they were conquered, they helped the Germans find and send the Jews to the concentration camps. So because of that, Jews have kind of less, what would you say, trust in the countries of the world to protect them if there are any kind of, another Hitler that comes around. So Jews feel that Israel needs to exist as a democratic Jewish state to protect all the Jews of the world, not just Israelis, from anything close to the Holocaust happening again. So just want to give that a little bit more context. Thank you, and I hope you're enjoying the episode.
And to give, a little bit of scale here, because I think that's always kind of fun to think about. I had mentioned how big the DRC is in Africa.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking at a superimposed image here of Israel inside of Texas, to stay with the same way of measuring that. The West Bank is about twice the size of Houston.
Mm-hmm.
And Israel itself is it's bigger than New Jersey.
Yeah, it's around New Jersey size.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's bigger than New Jersey. So
kind of.
We're fighting over Jersey.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. This is not. Yeah, these are not particularly large amounts of land here.
Right.
So
yeah, size not so important. Location pretty important.
Location. Yep.
Yeah, no doubt.
So
why did everybody have to overlap? Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Can't we just do it like a timeshare type of thing? Like you have it for this period of time.
Yeah, it might have something there. So
yeah, it's like, okay, everybody out. Why? It's our time. Oh, okay.
Right. And then from there,
It's their turn.
right. So from there, from the Israeli perspective, then you try to have peace talks and maybe have a two-state solution, and just didn't work out. And then you have a whole bunch of fighting between Israelis and Palestinians, and it now just turns into, things flare up. Hamas shoots thousands of rockets into Israel. Israel fucks their shit up, and then they eventually stop because I think mostly because Hamas just starts running out of missiles, or whatever. So, and then it just keeps going like that every 5 years or so, perpetually. So
yeah, once they build up enough supply of rockets again to actually make enough noise.
Yeah, or just things just heat up to a certain point. I don't know. I'm not privy to Hamas's dealings. So,
if they have any, from what it sounds like, they don't even fucking do anything.
No, they do. I mean, they're
politically speaking.
I mean,
they're genuinely inept at governing anything.
Kind of. So, I would say the Palestinian Authority is the most inept. They are completely fucking worthless. They are just...
Oh, excuse me. I think I'm mixing. Yeah. I'm mixing them up.
Yeah. So the Palestinian
Authority, because the one in the Gaza Strip and West Bank ain't the same shit.
No, that's another thing. You couldn't even really have a two-state solution. You'd have a three-state solution at this point.
Right.
So the Palestinian Authority is insanely corrupt and basically just is there to suck the money from that the UN provides them in humanitarian aid, and gives not a whole hell of a lot to the people. And Hamas kind of does that too, but they more diversify with not just taking the money for themselves, but also buying a shit ton of rockets and creating large tunnel systems, which kind of get destroyed during these little spats that they have with the Israelis. Priorities. Now, the thing with all of this, and I think this doesn't really get talked about enough, the more and more this happens, the more and more people on both sides get pissed off at each other, the less likely that there's going to be a peace agreement. I know from the Israeli side, they feel, hey, we've tried this a whole bunch of times. We keep getting attacked, and you have to live with these air raid sirens. Some of the rockets come through. The kidnappings and all this shit. Why should we even bother? It's not. We don't trust Hamas, certainly not Hamas or the Palestinian Authority, to do anything. So then you have kind of more of the hardliners on the Israeli side who just kind of just trying to push the Palestinians further and further away until they just cross the Jordan River. One day just want to just push them all into the Jordan River or as far back as they can to the West Bank, as they keep building up settlements more and more out east, which is dangerous. Right. And puts more of a strain on the IDF to protect all of them. And then you get into okay, there's Jewish people being born in the West Bank, and they're Israelis. And you have Arabs getting born in the West Bank. They're not. They're Palestinians, and they don't have the same kind of rights. So then you start talking about apartheid, which is not true, because if that was true, you wouldn't have the Arab Israeli citizens being able to they have all the they have the same rights. They can vote. The Joint List, which is a very large Arab party, I think it's the third largest party in the Knesset, which is the Israeli parliament. They're represented.
Can they travel?
They can travel. Yeah,
as easily across the border.
They can travel easier across the border, I think, because Well, I'm not. So
I don't know.
So that
I'm just
yeah.
genuinely asking. Like, if we're gonna say apartheid doesn't exist, or
So they
I mean, if you're going off your intuition off of this shit, I mean intuition. If you're going off of what everybody's fucking talking about,
so
and you only hear about
yes.
it, that's basically what I'm going off of.
Arabs don't have any different.
You know.
Arabs don't have any different passport than Jews do, as far as citizens go. So they have the same driver's license. They have the same passport. So they can go anywhere.
Well, no. Let's say I work. Let's say I work in West Jerusalem, but I live in the West Bank. What's that like? Do you have any idea?
You live in the
like. I mean, you got to travel across a road.
So if you,
is it as simple as just driving into work?
If you're an Arab in the West Bank, then you're almost certainly not an Israeli citizen. If like say you're born in the West Bank, like you're not an Israeli as an Arab. So you would have to be an Arab Israeli who, for some reason, decided to move to the West Bank, but also work in Israel. I mean, you go in the same line as all the Jewish Israelis who would be going from the West Bank to West Jerusalem. Yeah, there wouldn't be a difference because you have the same passport, you got the same driver's license. Another thing.
Yeah, I'm taking a look at it here.
And you can't do it by racial profiling because here's another thing that a lot of people don't know. Some people, especially on the far left, think that this is some kind of white supremacy thing, that the white Jews are taking over the land. Half the Jews in Israel are originally from Arab countries who were thrown out of their homes, their lands, and all their money taken away because of the creation of Israel. They threw them out and they had to go to Israel. That's half of the Jewish population in Israel is purely Semitic, just the same as any Arab. The next largest is Ashkenazi, which is a mix of pretty much 50-50 Italian and ancient Israelite, which is Semitic. Then you also have the Sephardic Jews who live there that are, I think, more Semitic blood than the Ashkenazis, but they're a pretty small portion of the Jewish population. And then you have the Arabs that are of mixed Palestinian and other Arab countries, and then you have the Bedouins who used to be nomadic people who can't be because of all the border, of all the countries that formed, who live in southern Israel. Then you have the Druzim, who are these mountain people who practice a different religion than Islam, but it's similar, and their symbol is a 5-pointed colored star, and each point of the star has a different color to it. So there's you can't really, racial profile because half the Jews, look like Arabs. And so, yeah. So if you're an Arab Israeli going to and from the West Bank into Israel, I mean, it's the same line as the Jewish Israelis.
Still got a lot of research to do on that.
Sure. One. Yeah, and people should.
I'd love to know more about it to understand what it means to cross the border between the West Bank and Israel. Because just because of what you said of an Israeli born in the West Bank is an Israeli citizen.
A Jew is, yeah. I don't
specifically a Jew.
I think so. I think if say
that's where it gets confusing.
Yeah, if an Israeli Arab couple has a kid in the West Bank, I don't know if that person is automatically an Israeli citizen. That you do have. I'm not going to say Jews don't have an easier time in Israel, because like one of the things that are it was kind of like the flashpoint was evicting Palestinians from their homes in East Jerusalem. So there's a law where Jews can reclaim their lost land from the wars, but Arabs don't have that same ability to do that. Now, you wouldn't have that as much for Israeli Arabs because they're Israelis because they stayed where they were. So, but still, like the law is specific to Jews, and there are some things that are kind of shitty that way, and I can understand why Arabs would be pissed off about.
Yeah, they're not getting evicted, man. They're getting this shit just knocked down, and they're getting booted out.
So, no, well,
that's forced removal. That ain't eviction. Eviction's a legal process.
Those are two different things. So there's evictions, which are kind of going on right now, where the descendants of the people who originally owned the house are trying to take it back, and that is a legal process. It's still like ongoing. The process. It's not like it was decided and then all these riots started. It's like an ongoing process, and I could see why the Palestinian people would be pissed off about it. Now these are Palestinians, Arabs, not Israeli Arabs, that this is happening to. There's that distinction. But there's also there's also other things again, and by trying to be fair to everyone, in the West Bank, in certain parts of it, like there's different zones, and in most of the zones, it's the Israeli government that decides what can be built. It has to go through this approval process, and things get approved by Jews a whole hell of a lot more than by Arabs, and so they ended up just building wherever the hell. Some of them just build wherever the hell they want, and then from a legal standpoint, Israel can just knock that shit over. It's like, well, you didn't get the permit for it. It's like, well, you didn't approve it. Yeah, sucks. So there is.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, there's a very very right wing slant to the Israeli government right now, where they are basically just trying to slowly push them more and more out east, and put more and more.
Right.
So, that. Now, I will say that didn't used to be
because we also happen to be talking about the best farmland in that entire area.
Now, it didn't used to be so right wing, the Israeli parliament, but again, because people get more and more pissed off with all the fights between each other, they become less and less sympathetic to the other side's cause. And this is both sides. So if you keep going like this, it's not going to get any better. Whoever side you're on, So I'll say that. Let's see what.
Yeah, no doubt.
So the more fighting there is, the more people are like, you know what? I don't give a shit if you make life harder for these people, because fuck these people. And it's just going to keep growing. It just, if you lived somewhere and these, there were people who were shooting rockets at you for whatever reason, like thousands of rockets, and so you had all these air raid sirens going on all the time at night, and and also, like, say if you're on the border of Gaza and Israel, like even like during like quote unquote peaceful times, they keep like sending these balloons filled with with like gasoline or whatever, these balloons that are used as incendiary bombs to start fires in Israel. And you just keep having that, and then they create these tunnels and they try to kidnap people, and all this shit. And also the Palestinian Authority pays tens of thousands of dollars to families of people who just murder Israelis. Doesn't matter if they're soldiers. Like, it could be like a 13-year-old girl. Your family gets paid out tens of thousands of dollars. The population of Israel is going to keep getting more and more pissed off. It's like, you know what? Fuck you. And they just turn a blind eye to like things that are actually fucked up, because they just stop caring. It's like, you know what? Fine, do whatever you want. Just push these assholes out. I don't want to deal with them anymore. And then on the Palestinian side, it's like, oh, they're doing more and more fucked up shit. And we're gonna get more and more pissed off and attack them more. It's just like it's getting to the point where you have these cycles of violence, and the biggest assholes on both sides are just doing what they want to do. Now, on the Palestinian side, that's a bad thing because you're not going to win this. Because Israel is so much...
Yeah, it's like, who do you think you're going up against,
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter if it's for that one single family that pulls it off, meaning, they fucking kill somebody.
Yeah, and then they get paid.
And they get a payout.
Yeah,
it's like winning the fucking lottery.
So, and also, like, now, there's a good amount of, like, media coverage, that's pro-Palestinian, and I guess that's kind of that's the way they're trying to win, is through, changing the minds of people. But in actuality, it's not really working, because I look on so many different media sites, BBC, CNN, Fox, Jerusalem Post, and you know what I don't hear? I hear next to nothing from these Arab countries who used to be like, hollering and denouncing Israel. Now that they have are creating these deals of Israel to help become trade partners or whatever, magically they don't give a shit anymore about the Palestinians, and that's happening all over the world where Israel is doing deals with other countries, India, United States, the Arab, the Sunni Arab countries, Hungary, Czechoslovakia, not Czechoslovakia, Czech Republic. And then they don't, then their government's like, oh, we hope for peace for the umpteenth time, and then when there is a ceasefire, which now there is, everyone just shuts the fuck up about it and goes about their day and lets things just keep happening the way they are until there's another rollover in violence, and it's the same song and dance. The Palestinians are not winning this in any arena, really. So, I would say, it's a big fucking mess, because you're not going to get anywhere with either one of the governments that are running the Palestinians from Gaza or the West Bank. And I would say that's the biggest block to the peace process. Netanyahu's not doing anybody any favors, but I would say that's where it has to start. And also, also from the Israeli perspective, and not wanting to, give anything to the Palestinians. Gaza used to be the same as the West Bank in that it was occupied by Israel. You had Israeli settlers there, and then Ariel Sharon, the Prime Minister of Israel at the time, decided, you know what, fine, we're going to completely pull out. We're going to take all the settlers out. They're going to call the soldiers Nazis, like, as they're pulling them out, which they totally fucking did. But they pulled every single Jewish person out of there and said, you run yourself. Hamas immediately took over and fucked the whole place up. And people calling for, the end of the occupation of the West Bank, you don't know what you're asking for. 100% Hamas will take over from the Palestinian Authority, and it's going to turn just like it is in Gaza.
Yeah, gotta have a better replacement strategy. You can't just fucking...
And
you can't take out...
And, that...
the one force keeping things and keeping the bullshit in check.
Yep.
The bullshit being terrorism and complete ineptitude.
Yep. And that force is, of course, one-sided, which is by definition. Because you have, citizens living there and non-citizens living there. Who are they going to, give preferential treatment to? Their citizens. That's it. The whole situation is fucked. But from my perspective, and I'm a Jewish person. I was born in the States, but I'm also an Israeli citizen. So is the rest of my family. This is what I see is the real problem. And why it's people say it's complicated and they don't explain why it is. This is why it is, because you're fucked either way until the Palestinians just create like a new government, which would be really hard, especially in Gaza, which would be almost impossible because they just run that place like, you know, with an iron fist. Like, you know, like Hamas is going to cede power. It's like, oh, okay, well, I guess we got voted out. They also, you know, they got voted in. Now, that's another reason why Israelis like, oh, well, Palestinians just love terrorism, so fuck them. I would say that's not the reason why they voted for Hamas. Hamas is basically the Muslim Brotherhood, which took over Egypt for a little while. And how they're able to do that is they have the resources to campaign. They give promises like, hey, you know, we'll feed you, you know, here's food. You know, they give food to the poor. They give all, you know, these nice promises, how, you know, we're going to take care of things. We have the money to do that. And the know-how, and so everyone just votes for him. They sweep in, and it's like, well, that whole democracy thing sure was fun. Done. We take over. Go fuck yourselves. And it's the same thing. So that happened in Egypt. They tried to do it in Egypt. Then the military's like, no, we're going to take over again. And it happened successfully in Iran, where, you know, basically the Islamic militants took over and basically erased most of the democracy. So, like in Iran, the Ayatollah controls everything. They have a parliament there, which is democratically elected, but the Ayatollah has to approve every person running for parliament. So it's only their guys that can get in. And that's the situation with the Palestinians. Like, you have completely inept and non-democratically elected assholes in the Palestinian Authority, and then you have a whole bunch of psychos in Hamas. What is anyone, you know, and Israel can't just like, you know, hey, we'll just completely wipe out Hamas, and you guys can just elect a new government that I'm sure will be totally awesome. No, you can't do that. So what the hell are you going to do? And that's the real situation, is that you can't move the pieces in a way that will change things the way they're set up now. That's about it. So anyone listening, hey.
I think it's worth bringing... Yeah, I know, right? Just to leave the podcast on a positive note. Check out The Art of War. Which was a documentary about Northern Ireland and Ireland during the Troubles, which isn't, of course, the same situation at all. But it's got a little bit of overlap there in terms of a border.
Sure, I can see that.
And in terms of an island, and in terms of, you know, two religious groups with seeming overlap culturally going back hundreds of years. And there not being much of any kind of hope in sight of any of it ending. Now, the amount of violence I think that took place is definitely not. I'm not sure what the numbers are, but it still existed.
Yeah, no,
and it still existed and it also at the end of that one, you can also blame the British.
Yeah,
and there was also a bunch of terrorism and stuff like that. And the only way that it really started going forward was through art, people's murals, because mural work in those areas was weaponized at one point. It was, it went from, hey, if you're in this neighborhood, you better watch out and watch your ass, and you better watch what you say and who you're talking to, because you're in this territory now. And eventually that kind of artwork got banned, and the only artwork that was allowed was commemorative artwork for whoever got killed in whatever incident. This pub got blown up, or this child got killed.
Yeah.
And eventually the artwork started having crossover. Like, the artists started talking to each other and started working with each other. So,
yeah.
Conversation. talking.
And
it's the only way that anything ever gets fixed.
Yeah.
Better communication.
Yeah, and the solution is,
not blowing up news buildings.
Right. Well, as you were talking about the one in Gaza where Israel said, the Hamas was in that building as well, and they evacuated it. Anyway. So, but yeah, going back to your point. Yeah, and the solution is, of course, beyond, hidden from everyone, because if it was readily apparent, it would have happened already. But, it has been going longer. And also, as far as that goes, I thought like another big portion was because of the European Union, and where they didn't have to have a hard border between Ireland and Northern Ireland because of the European Union.
Yeah, that helped stop it.
Yeah.
And now, here we are, we're having those same conversations with Brexit. Because it's already starting back up again.
Yeah.
Because the second, and that's what's holding up Brexit. That's the thing that's holding it up.
That's one of the big things, yeah.
Because the second they put a wall back up, the second they put a barrier back up, the violence is going to come back.
That shit's going to come, yeah, for sure.
The second it does. Over what? Eggs? Give me a fucking break.
Yeah. That's kind of, the big holdup. So.
No doubt.
But all we can do is hope that, something does change. They see a crack in the wall of, again, how many times has this exact scenario happened over and over again now? Like, now it's not even, like, different at all. Like, you used to, like, have different types of things happening, between the Israelis and Palestinians. It's the exact same thing as it's been, like, the past, like, 4 or 5 times. Like, almost, like, you could have, like, news articles from, like, 12 years ago and read them now, like, oh, that's what happened today? Yeah, and you'd believe it because it just completely lines up. So.
Right.
So, yeah, I have to break the cycle somehow. Somebody has to do something. And I personally, I think it kind of has to either be on the Palestinian side or these the Gulf Arab nations have to do something. I don't know what it is, but I hope for a 2-state solution. I don't know what the hell's going to happen with Gaza, but there you go. But or 3-state solution, whatever. A solution where you have people just living in peace and don't have to worry about dying, and hopefully,
I got room in my place. There we go. And 17-state solution. 17 million state solution.
And it would be good if.
Why don't you just come on over?
Build a functional Palestine. Israel invests in it, and you start mending things, and you start investing in each other, and who knows what could happen in the future. So here's hoping.
No doubt. Next year in Israel, everybody.
All right. So, you got anything else, Matt?
No. Did we get any fan mail?
No.
Did we get any new listeners?
Not really.
Okay, then. Just checking. Did the president call?
Yes.
Wait, which one?
Tune in next week to find out.
Yeah, no.
Nobody called.
Oh shit! Didn't we have like a cliffhanger on one episode, and I totally forgot about it?
Yeah, I think there's like some kind of.
I'm gonna have to go back 2 or 3 episodes there. Tune in next week when I actually remembered my cliffhangers.
All right, so you can write us in at hopesomething.sticks@gmail.com. And yeah, we'll see you next week.
Peace.